things that I think about bye weeks. Number one, it's great to have a week off, at least if you're in my shoes. But it's great to have a week off. You kind of get to recharge. You're not on the edge of your seat. You don't have those butterflies in your stomach. You just actually get to sit there and watch football. That's what I did all day on Saturday and was able to watch Penn State fall to UCLA, watch Texas get clipped by Florida. So many different things that we were able to see. Diego Pavia not being able to live up to the shit talk that he had all offseason. And it's always great to have a little bit of a recharge. Now, I would say that it's not going to be too terribly long, and at the end of this month, you're going to get another recharge because you'll have a bye week going into the week before you play the University of Alabama. But no month is bigger, in my humble opinion, than what you can accomplish to get where you want to go more than the month of October. Because, guys, quite frankly, you have a very dangerous quarterback coming into town this weekend. You have to go in on the road to Nashville at a noon kickoff. And, guys, who knows, a team that's been playing at night every single night or every single week damn near outside of one, how do they respond at a noon kickoff on the eastern side of the United States? And I don't even know if you consider Tennessee the eastern side of the United States, but I surely do. Then you have Texas A&M, who's coming off of a rout against Mississippi State this past weekend. You look at this and say, well, it was great to regroup. It was great to replenish. But as Brian Kelly did say, and we'll talk about a lot of things that Brian Kelly did say today in this show, how do you respond? How does this offensive unit for LSU respond this week? And quite frankly, I know I brought this up on Thursday, but how does Garrett Nussmeier respond? You know, I don't remember a time, and I don't even think it exists, that Garrett Nussmeier, from a fan base, from just the overall way how things are going on the field, has ever felt the amount of pressure that he's felt in his young career. I don't know if Joe Sloan or Cortez Hankton or Brian, I don't want to say Brian Kelly. Brian Kelly's felt a lot of pressure in his career. But is this the most amount of pressure that those people, meaning Cortez, meaning Joe Sloan, meaning Garrett, this entire offensive line, this wide receiver room, have felt in their careers? Because it seems to me that that's where we're at. Did you do everything humanly possible that's under your control in a bye week to correct the wrongs? I don't know if you did or if you didn't. But I promise you, you have an offensive performance the way that you did 2 weeks ago. Guys, the month of October will not be a fun one. It just simply will not be a fun one. But I have faith that you will show and be better this week. Because Brian Kelly coming off a bye and a loss, well, even though some of you don't like him right now, I still think is a very dangerous combo. So we'll do a little bit of a South Carolina preview, more from an LSU side of things. You know, on Thursday, we talked about South Carolina really talking about involving a lot of things that they do and what they could do to you. Tonight, we're going to talk a lot about LSU. We're going to talk about the defense, something we don't talk about a lot here, even though they've been so great. We'll talk about the offense as well in that preview and really look forward into that. I went to the press conference today. I broke my one rule. During the season, I don't go because I just think it's a lot of fluff and BS or whatever. But I think for the first time in the Brian Kelly era that there are just questions that I think needed to be asked, especially about this offense. And we got a couple of those answers that we'll play for you here tonight. Also, I did mention Brian Kelly did meet with the media. We'll talk about that as well. And we'll get to some of your thoughts, questions, and concerns. But before I get rolling, I need to kind of talk about this, and because it's been massive news, and it was massive news coming out on Friday. On Friday, Kyren Lacy, the former LSU wide receiver, and God bless him and rest in peace, his attorney came out with some very damning video, and I suggest I'm not going through the video for you. Go watch it for yourself, but came out with some very damning video to the Louisiana State Police, so what it would appear. In reference to the Kyren Lacy situation, there are a couple of things that I would like to say. Number one, this is why on this show, even when he was arrested, and why every single time when someone involving LSU is arrested, we say innocent until proven guilty. If you've ever listened to an AYS show before, whether it be the Sharon Lewis stuff, Gloria Scott, Darius Geis, you name it. Guys, I was a part of that world, meaning law enforcement, for a long ass time. Spent a lot of my days in that world. And I'm the one coming out here telling you due process and the way things are handled is always the answer. Newsflash, people lie. And I don't know of completely about what the situation that happened here. But Kyren Lacy's attorney came out with some video this week that really has me questioning a lot of things. Like, for example, how is Kyren Lacy 72 yards behind the crash when it happens? How does it take so long for you to issue a warrant for his arrest? And then when we find in discovery being when the defense is given all of the evidence that the prosecution has, how in the world are you able to show a video of Kyren Lacy being 72 yards behind the crash and slowing down at the crash when it happened? How? Because 72 yards is a long-ass way. Now, it's not necessarily a long way for a vehicle, and I understand that. But the wreck had already happened, and it gave Kyren Lacy, as you see in the video, a long time to slow down and legitimately stop with no real hesitation or no real issue. You have a video out there of what it appears. I haven't seen the whole video, because it was only 9 minutes. But there is a video out there of what looks like to me of a police officer leading a witness and a statement that was written that was not signed by the witness, and also him saying that Kyren Lacy was not the reason for the accident. And yet he's still arrested. You are an adult and I am an adult. And a lot of people think they know how this process works, but they really don't. So let's talk like adults here about how this process actually works. In an investigation, you get probable cause in the investigation on who you want to arrest. When you get that probable cause, in this case, what seems like to be a coerced confession of leading a witness, when you get that probable cause and you write a warrant, a judge is going to believe what the police officer or detective is saying in the affidavit of the warrant that you're trying to issue. So a judge has immunity to some extent, and mainly most of the time does, in reference to the warrants that they sign, because the police officer or detective or whomever is giving probable cause on why an arrest should be made. But then you turn around in this specific case for Kyren Lacy, and the probable cause that was given, and that when you have on video cam footage and body cam footage, is at least what appears to me to be I don't want to say a coerced confession, but a leading of a witness to get that warrant. Guys, I was in that realm and in that world a long time. And the way that my vantage point sees that is not good at all. The witness didn't even sign the statement. Now, let me give you an idea about how charges can just be simply brought. For an example, let's say you see me on the sidewalk and you just say hello. And because for whatever reason, I didn't like the way that you said hello, I can call the police and say, listen, this guy just threatened me. And the police come up, I write an affidavit and say, this guy threatened me and threatened my life and threatened physical harm, and I sign an affidavit and a warrant can be cut. I lied. in that scenario. I would have lied in that scenario, and a warrant can be placed for your arrest. That's how this works. Well, Blake, that seems messed up. Don't they have to contact the other side? No, not really. Not really. Because it's your word versus his. Do you want to press charges? Yes. Okay, well then we're going to put out a warrant. You're going to go to court for it. This scenario and this situation with Kyren Lacy is god-awful. You know, I when it first came out, I'm going to be honest. When it first came out, I thought to myself, I said, with such a high-profile situation with a guy like Kyren Lacy and a kid's future that's up for grabs, with him going to the combine and him going into the draft, oh, well, they surely did their due diligence, right? They surely did everything above board, then some, before that warrant was issued. Who leaked to the media that Kyren Lacy was actually in the incident? Because when the media reported it, and you can go check this out on WAFB, WBRZ, it's a statement from the Louisiana State Police. So I saw a lot of you blaming the media. Go ahead, blame the media all you want. No, I don't think Barstool is media. No, I don't think that kid Jack from Barstool is media. He literally runs to Twitter 2 to 3 times a week talking about conspiracy theories. No, I don't think that he's legitimate media. Guys, it smells to high heaven. I say to Kyren's family, I am so sorry that this happened. I am so sorry that you were put in this situation, because this is god-awful. Now, I do not know, and before we get out of here, I have zero clue, and I'm going to say what Brian Kelly, guys, whether y'all got mad at him today because he didn't say what you wanted him to say about Kyren Lacy, guys, he kind of can't. And that's for a whole different topic for a whole different day. And you consider me the truth teller. He can't. But I don't know what's going to play out in this. And Louisiana State Police came out and said, we still have evidence. No. Well, if you did, then why didn't you put it in discovery? Why didn't you give it to the defense then? You can't come out and say, well, we have more evidence. Sounds good. Why didn't you give it to the attorney? Why didn't you give it to Kyren's attorney? I don't know what is going to come of all of this. The only thing that I want to come out of all of this is the peace and well-being of not only Kyren Lacy's family, but the family of the gentleman who passed away, the 72-year-old veteran. Because now this is all brought up in their light, that their dad, that their grandpa, that their brother, that their husband, now he's brought into this because of a whole different situation, and they just want closure. So you're not just ruining one life here. And Kyren didn't even really, in this scenario, do anything based off of the video that we've seen. And what seems to be, to me, a really strong indication of leading a witness. Who, guys, I with all due respect to the gentleman who was the witness in the video on Kyren Lacy, because I don't think he was all there. You know, like he looked impaired to me. And by the way, you can't take a statement from an impaired person, meaning drunk, or, I mean, guys, he was slurring over his words. I don't know what's going to come of it. I just want peace for the Lacy family and for the family of the veteran who died and didn't need to. It's a horrible, horrible, horrible situation. But my eyes are my eyes, and my ears are my ears. And my eyes saw what my eyes saw, and my ears heard what my ears heard, and that don't look right. God bless us, man. God bless Kyren, because this is insane. Our good friend Ryan Williams over the Drake Williams Law Firm says lack capacity is what you're looking for. Thank you. lacked the 1,000%, Ryan, and he would know. I mean, he's the attorney on this show. He's this show's attorney. So when you come after us, you come after Ryan Williams, and you're not going to win. That's why you go to the Drake Williams law firm. But guys, you know what you saw. You know what you saw. And we don't get we don't get political here. This is revolving a dude around LSU. I don't know what to make of it, but I know what I saw and I know what I heard. So I'm praying for everybody here. All right, let's get moving. Everybody do us a favor. Hit the like and share. Share to all those groups if you're on Facebook and to all of those social media pages. You're watching us, listening to us on YouTube. Like, subscribe, notification bell, and wherever you listen to podcasts, do us a favor and hit that like, subscribe, and notification bell. Every episode is brought to you by our good friends over at FanDuel. You got the discretionary income. Go over to FanDuel.com today. Place those bets. Guys, do you think LSU is worthy of having a spread against South Carolina at 9.5? And we shared it yesterday. That line is at 9.5, that FanDuel believes that LSU is going to win, and Death Valley on Saturday night. A massive slate of games are going to be on your TV this Saturday. The place that you can place those bets is with our good friends over at FanDuel. If you got any thoughts, questions, concerns, you don't really know what you're doing, well, first off, I think you need to learn before you go and do it and figure some things out before you go and do it. But if you have thoughts, questions, concerns, do us a favor. FanDuel is 1,000% behind this. It's why they put it on there. Go to FanDuel.com/RG for more details. If you have any thoughts, questions, concerns, you know where to go. All right, let me get moving here. When we come back, we got lots to discuss. LSU's off a bye week. Can they beat South Carolina? We talk about that next. Stay with us.
He will sell your house and find you a new. Well, Tyler's the man, he's here for you. If you want to buy or sell, well, it's not too late. Dial 955-0008. Just call 955-0008. Y'all call Tyler, he'll shoot you straight.
Hey guys, I want to tell you about our good friends over at Red Stick Financial. They're your local residential mortgage broker located right here in the heart of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. At Red Stick Financial, they find the bank that works for your particular set of needs to purchase the home of your dreams or refinance the current one. They truly are your partners in this process, and they pride themselves in helping individuals and families with one simple goal in mind, and that is to make home financing approachable, attainable, and stress-free. They are licensed in all Louisiana, Texas, and Mississippi. So from Amarillo to Meridian and everything in between, they have you covered. Red Stick Financial brings you creative, customized solutions, and they don't believe in the one-size-fits-all when it comes to loans. They even have special options for mobile and manufactured homes located in a flood zone and stated income financing for those of us who are self-employed borrowers. If you or someone you know is looking to buy a home, refinance an existing mortgage, or simply want to know what options are out there for your future, give Red Stick Financial a call today at 225-407-9250. That's 225-407-9250. Or check them out online at redstickfinancial.com. That's redstickfinancial.com. Before you purchase the home of your dreams or you go and do that refinance, you need to go local. Go Red Stick. We're back. TJ with a $5 super chat. Yes, where is everybody watching from tonight? He's in the 601, living in Monterey, California. Long live Hot Seat Billy, the most dangerous figure in sports. Their wins make us look good. TJ's not wrong. And listen, I got to be real with you. So there's been a lot. So to TJ's point, there have been a lot of things said from me, from everybody about this LSU team, right, wrong, or indifferent. And what's so interesting to me is you still beat, guys, I think Florida's a good team. Do I think that they're a greatly coached team all the time with Billy Napier? No. Guys, you still beat a really freaking talented team by 10 at home. And you made a quarterback who went, guys, Texas's defense doesn't suck. Sorry to tell you, they don't suck. They're one of the top 12 units in the country right now. They don't suck. The thing is that you did more to Florida than anything of what Texas could do. You kind of changed the philosophy on how things were ran at Florida based off of what you did to DJ Lagway. I still think that Florida win's really good. And I can't believe I'm going to say this on an LSU-centric show, but it is the truth. I agree with what Mike Elko said today, by the way. The Texas A&M head coach, Mike Elko, came out today and said, guys, Florida is by far the most talented team that we've played this season, and it's not close. They play Notre Dame. And I agree with him. I agree with Elko. I think that Florida team is very talented. They're not a great coach team. Just a highly, highly talented team. All right. So last Thursday, you and I came in here and did a preview for the South Carolina game. So look, we're going through a bye week. There's so many things that we need to discuss. And we kind of talked about the South Carolina game a little bit earlier than maybe we would in a normal, obviously more than what we do on a normal week. We normally on Thursday go through keys to victory. But I want to look at this game going into the week in a different light, in a different view. Let's look at it from the LSU lens, because on Thursday, we really kind of looked at it from a South Carolina lens. Listen, you're really good defensively. You've sent a lot of pressure. You got one of, if not the best edge guy in the country in Dylan Stewart. Guys, their safety room is absolutely fantastic. Their corners are a little leaky, but their safety room is fantastic. Their linebacking room has been fantastic. Oh, and by the way, guys, I just think they kind of keep replenishing sometimes, and how nasty their interior defensive tackles have been when you watch them on film. The opposite was for South Carolina. Man, Mike Shula's had a really tough time so far this season offensively. Lenore Sellers went out against Vanderbilt with a concussion, and then they went up against and they lost against Vandy. Then they faced Missouri, and then he didn't even throw a pass. He didn't even run the ball, until the third quarter. They didn't even design a run for Lenore Sellers until the third quarter. He sat in the pocket in that game and completely absolutely decimated Missouri secondary. But we looked at it from all the advantages and disadvantages from the South Carolina lens. Tonight, let's look at it from the LSU side of things. Guys, today I went to the press conference for Brian Kelly. Guys, most of you have been here long enough to know, you pretty much know my rule. I don't know if there's ever really anything pressing for me to go there because, guys, he's going to get asked what he's going to get asked. But this past week, during the bye week, I did a lot of soul searching on what I think has been going on through the first 5 weeks. What are some of the issues that LSU faces, not only this season so far offensively, but what they may face against South Carolina and what South Carolina does very well? And it was very apparent to me when you just go back and watch, and we've talked about this, but we haven't really gone in great detail, is, listen, can you run the football? No. Are you great at protecting Garrett all the time? No, not really. Not really. I mean, it's not like he's getting sacked a lot. He's been under a lot of pressure. Not really a lot of pressure, to be honest with you. Guys, you're still in the top 20 when it comes to pressure rate. So as bad as that offensive line has been, Garrett's still in the top 20. You're still in the top 20 and not allowing pressures. With that being said, we all know you can't run the ball. And the question has been all week, well, how do you fix it? What came very apparent to me this week is I just don't know if during the game, during the series for LSU, you have a great flow. Blake, no duh, we can't do anything. But it's specifically in the passing game. Guys, I really do believe that you're rotating way too much personnel in and out of the lineup, way too much. I think it's become an issue. I think that when you put a unit out there and you go 11 personnel as an example, you need to stay in that same 11 personnel for a couple of plays instead of the constant rotation that you're seeing from Cortez Hankton. Well, Blake, how do you know it's Cortez? Because I see him on the sidelines literally every week deciding the personnel of the play call that's coming in. That's how I know. This isn't Joe Sloan saying, hey, put in so-and-so. No, this is a personnel decision, especially when you come at receiver. And I think more than anything, you've become very predictable on what you're doing. Like as an example, when Kyle Parker and Nick Anderson come into the game, guys, there's a pretty strong chance that we're running the football. Actually, there's a very strong chance that we're running the football. Pretty sure teams have picked up on that when you're not throwing the ball really to Kyle Parker or Nick Anderson. And then when you want to throw the football around, well, then here comes Barryon, here comes Aaron, here comes Chris, here comes Xavion. And teams know what you're going to do. So today, in something that through the last 5 weeks or first 5 games of the season, it is very apparent to me that your rotation is clearly, and we talked about this a little, but not ad nauseum. It is clear to me that teams know with the personnel that you have coming in and out that you're doing what you're doing. Now, Brian Kelly said last week in his last press conference, guys, I know we can't run the ball. And I'm paraphrasing, but pretty much telling you what he said. Guys, we can't really run the ball right now. But our passing game simply has got to be better. Because, guys, I think 3 weeks ago, he says it's a timing issue with Garrett because of the injury. Last week, it was because Garrett just had an off game. You go into a bye week and Garrett's off. So what are you going to do to change things? Now, I'm going to play this clip for you because this is what I asked Brian Kelly today in reference to, hey, you said that there's a passing game issue. Well, what is it? So we asked him.
Coach, last week you talked about wanting to see some differences in the passing game. Yeah. Can you go into a little bit more detail on that? And then secondly, would you want to see the receiver rotation maybe in series be reduced, or is that what you were talking about? Can you just elaborate a little bit more?
I think last week or 2 weeks ago, you saw less personnel moving in and out of the game at the wide receiver position. We were setting almost every play for a particular player, and in some instances that's good, but sometimes you don't get the flow of the game, right? There's two things going on. So I think we felt more comfortable what the rotation was last week in terms of our receivers being in and out of the game. And look, I think at the end of the day, it's more explosive plays. We were 1 of 7 when we threw the ball down the field. We've got to hit some of those shots that we came up short on. Those are big plays that usually led themselves for us to touchdowns. So big plays down the field, we've got to hit on those. And then I think finding a nice rhythm offensively where we're not, going over the boards every time, on a shift change. We've got to be a little bit more consistent with our flow.
So basically, yes. Cortez has got to do better at this rotation and keeping the 3 to 4 guys in that you want. If you're going to run with Barrel Sharp at tight end and take Trey'Dez Green off the field, by all means, go ahead and do it if that's what you so choose. You got to get a formation of Barryon, Anderson, Hilton, Xavion, and stay with it. Because if timing's your issue, nobody on this team has more timing than those 3 guys with Garrett Nussmeier, especially Chris Hilton. They've been here together literally the entire time. So when I'm talking about, and you're talking about timing, when you're talking about issues of hitting the deep shots, Brian Kelly did not have to bring up, hey, guys, we got to push the ball down the field some. It's exactly what he just said here in his press conference. Okay, sounds good. Well, then you got to get your speed out there and stop going in 12 personnel where you're putting both tight ends in the slot. You got to give your playmakers a chance in space. You need, like I think of a couple of years ago, where did the slot fade go? Where did the slot fade go? You ran it all during camp with Chris Hilton. Just newsflash, When we would come in here and talk about Chris Hilton had a massive day, Chris Hilton caught a couple of touchdowns, guys, he's lined up in either the slot or at the far right boundary and running fade routes. Well, if you're not having success, and if you're not having success at throwing the ball down the field, I have a God's honest question. Why don't you make the throw shorter for Garrett with an inside slot fade to the fastest guy maybe in college football, who hasn't really gotten a chance to prove that for this season? The rotation has got to get cleaned up, because I don't think along the offensive line as a whole that you really get things cleaned. You know, I know that we want this offense to change and be better, and I think that on the offensive line, they continuously can continue to be better. I'm not expecting them guys to go out there and run or have a game where, quite honestly, that they're running for 150 yards. Because you can't do it against Southeastern. I sure as hell am not going to believe that you can do it against some of these other SEC teams, because you can't. So now the passing game and explosive plays and big playmakers have got to touch the football. Aaron, Barryon, Chris, Xavion have been what has been, per the stats, your most productive players. If you want to throw Nick in there for a series, by all means, do it for a series. You can't keep rotating everybody in and out, because things start getting confused. You don't get the play call, and it's too much. Simplify. Hankton and company have got to start reducing things. And quite frankly, your head coach is going out there saying, we got to hit some balls downfield. And you can say, well, Blake, we have Garrett. Hold on. I'm getting in that in just a moment. But the God's honest truth is the rotation has got to come down. Secondly, with all due respect, if you're going to win this week against this team, so circling it back to South Carolina, they will allow you to take stuff underneath. Meaning, I think teams from here on out are going to do a lot of the same things that you saw 2 weeks ago, just not as drastic as what Pete Golding did. But when I look at South Carolina, and I look at all the things that happened to them this season in the past game that had lots of success, like what did Bo Prabula do? Well, Bo Prabula took everything underneath on some of these drag routes, and it ate their asses alive. It's the stuff that you're missing on right now constantly from your quarterback position and your offensive coordinator not calling enough of it. I don't know if I see the creativity enough in the passing game to where, hey, why don't you run a drag with one of the fastest guys in college football and run a pick? Kind of what Clemson did to you, where you can run it behind the line of scrimmage, like the screen you kind of did, I guess, to Aaron Anderson. Where are some of those things at? This week versus South Carolina, the middle of the field yet again against a team is going to be wide ass open. Now, 2 weeks ago versus against Ole Miss, on Thursday of that week, I said, listen, I feel like I have a pretty good idea of Pete Golding and who he is not only as a person, but as a play caller. And we talked about, guys, they're going to back out on you. They're going to back out on you constantly. And they're not going to do anything special. They're going to keep running the same stuff that had success on you a year ago until you prove that you can change it. You better hit the stuff underneath and methodically wear them down and use your level of depth to beat them. Please go back and listen. That was their key to victory. Well, you didn't do it. But Brian Kelly said you got to start hitting deep shots. And I wonder if that is a sign of, hey, man, if Garrett can't do it, now what? If he can't do it and he's not back to his normal self and he can't push the ball down the field, well, do you make a move? I was the only person I think the last 2 weeks to really, other than asking about Michael Van Buren if he's taking snaps, about what he's seen from him, and we'll talk about that in a moment. But there's only really a couple of things here, guys, that we have to expect. Number one, I don't know how your timing gets better during a bye week when your quarterback's not throwing the ball to the receivers. The VR is great. I know he's just kind of really now just starting to use it. And yes, we'll back that up with any amount of sourcing that we need to. And I promise you we will win it. I know all the mental reps were there. But timing is not always just a mental thing, but a physical thing. This week for Garrett is going to be crucial to find that. Is he getting closer? Is he close to 100%? Because if he is, okay, well, then let's see how this thing rolls out. Let's see how this thing plays out. Maybe you start getting to a week where, hey, man, he hasn't played a game in 2 weeks. We didn't push him in the first week, and now he needs to be ready to go. And Brian Kelly said as much in reference to, hey, guys, you get to the bye week, we should be pretty much smooth sailing of what he is and who he's going to be. Well, if that's the case, then here we go. But I don't know. I don't know if he's not going to look like what he did versus Ole Miss. Is he still that level of hurt? I don't know. But you have a head coach calling out his receivers coach saying, yeah, that rotation needs to kind of be dwindled down, and we got to get a rhythm of a game. And in the rhythm of that game, we got to start hitting deep shots. We were 1 for 7 on deep shots. The only deep one you hit was to Nick Anderson on an in route for 21 yards. We got to start pushing the ball down the field here, and we got to start making some plays for the passing game, or we're in trouble. Because, guys, we're not finding a run game. South Carolina is going to take a lot of things away from you. Where I think they're really good at their safety unit, I think you can get over on their corners. I still think that your talent at receiver outweighs what they have at corner. Can you call a game that is good enough to be able to attack that? Can you throw the ball when it's called to a Chris Hilton or a Barryon Brown when they put you in man-to-man coverage? Or even if they back out, can you make the right throw and be accurate enough to succeed? Because, guys, there's only really 2 things that you need to do in this game to me, that I'm trying the first thing. If South Carolina, from a DB perspective, is playing off, sounds good. Quick slant, hitch, quick out, whatever you got. If you want to give me 7 to 9 to 10 yards and you want to play that off of me, sounds great. We are going to methodically move the ball down the field. Guys, it's not that you can't do it. You did it against Arkansas. Arkansas played really off of you. You hitched them to death all the way down the field, and it was really impressive. Do it again. Or what South Carolina has done a lot of, playing quarters, playing man. Those boundary corners do not have the speed that you can throw out there. And no, I'm not talking about Xavion. You got to find ways to get Barryon Brown the football. You got to find ways, and I know you've tried, but you haven't been successful a lot of times in getting Aaron Anderson the football. And guys, I got to be real with you. Whether it's going to be Xavion or Chris and you want to rotate those 2 out specifically on what they do, sounds great to me. I don't care. But you're going to have to be a little bit more explosive. And going 12 personnel where you have 2 tight ends in the slot, quite honestly, isn't going to do it. It's not going to do it. What is Garrett Nussmeier this week? Who is he? Does Garrett respond to the level of adversity that has been is right now at the highest order that he's ever gone through in his career? If it's a health thing and he's coming out of it, which we haven't talked to him, but per Brian Kelly, apparently seems like he's coming out of it. Either he is or he isn't. I don't know. What is the status of him and what is he going to look like offensively is really the biggest question. Overcoming the adversity of being hurt, guys, there's not really anything if he is hurt. There's not really a lot of things he can do other than give it time and give it rest and let it heal. But if he is ready to go, your season's starting to become on the line here. Did you put in the work this week during the bye week that's going to lead your team to victory. You got a lot of questions you got to answer. And quite honestly, I hope he wakes up pissed off on Saturday, ready to kill somebody, because that's the level of that is the way that champions respond. I don't think you can run the ball on South Carolina. I quite simply, I just don't. You can't run the ball on a lot of teams. I'm not assuming that you can run the ball here. If you find it, then great. Maybe Carius Kern being moved to guard, which we said on Thursday. Look, the way that Carius Kern, and we kind of hinted at this, the way that Carius Kern played, I think they're going to play Weston Davis. That means Carius Kern's getting moved. You got an injury at left guard, go put his big ass there, which I've been screaming from the rafters since camp to put Kern at left guard. Maybe Carius Kern does give you some boost, and you run behind the big fella, which is going to be our keys to victory if he is there on Saturday. Run behind the big fella. Let's see what we got here. Maybe things get better. I'm not expecting you to do that. So it falls on one thing. Guys, I have completely written off this run game until you can prove to me otherwise that you have any pulse whatsoever. I've written it off. I hope Caden Durham or Harlan Berry can hit a long run. I do. I pray to God they can. I have no faith that you're going to be able to do it, nor should I. So you're going to have to fix things in the passing game, and you're going to have to keep the same rotation out there and get the right personnel in there. Why you've had a situation where Pro Football Focus comes out and does the receiver analysis on the personnel packages. How in the world, through 5 games, has Barrion Brown and Chris Hilton been on the field together twice? How? I don't know. What I do know is even if you don't throw the ball to Hilton, guys, they got to back off. They must. They don't have a choice. And you're not hitting stuff underneath. What Ole Miss did to you in dropping 8, Garrett should have known, I'm just going to nickel and dime them down the field and be patient. And I felt as if, and here's how, before we switch to defense here, or I got 2 more things on offense before we switch to defense. But I felt like offensively, you're just pressing way too much. This team to me offensively feels like they're hearing the outside noise. They're hearing all the things that's going on, and how can't they? We've been a very vocal bunch on how bad things have been for you offensively. Against Ole Miss, when I look at them in the second half, I saw a team, I saw play calling, I saw a quarterback, I saw an offensive line and run game where the moment felt a little too big, where your 5th-year senior quarterback's got to know, guys, if they're dropping 8, we got to hit stuff underneath so that we have success. If teams do that to you again, newsflash, they are. Now you got to know, hey, man, I got to go to everything that's underneath and live with a 13, 14-play drive for a score and live to fight another day. So what? We're not hitting bombs over Baghdad. They're not going to allow us all game and not try to change anything and walk people up. And that's when Barrion and Chris go down. And you got to try to hit them. I don't know the health status, and guys, it will be a talking point all week. I don't know what Garrett Nussmeier is going to look like. But if he looks that way again against Ole Miss, what does Michael Van Buren look like? I don't know. But the one thing I needed to know before we go into this week from Brian Kelly more than anything, if Garrett is still hurt and he can't perform at the level that he needs to perform at, what was Michael Van Buren's week like? We asked Brian Kelly.
With Nuss being limited last week, what did you see from Michael Van Buren, maybe in growth from when he first got here to now, and what do you think some things that maybe he needs to work on?
I think, he's beginning to command the offense the way I'd like a starter to command it, not a backup. I thought earlier in the year he commanded the offense like a backup. I want him to go in there and with confidence, with communication, and do that. And I thought he did a very good job when he was given the reins last week. So those are all really positive things because I think we see his skill set. He's got a live arm. He's got some elusiveness. He's got some grittiness to him that you can see in game situations. But, you know, we really like Mike. We knew what we were getting in the portal. I think it's just his maturation now as a freshman coming into his own now that he's been in this program. So I thought it was a really good week for him.
So that's LSU head coach Brian Kelly on Michael Van Buren. We'll see. I don't think they're going to him, and I think they're going to give Garrett the chance here. And guys, I just got to be real. If you look a lot of the ways that you did like 2 weeks ago, you got to do something. You can't keep ramming your head up against the wall. You just can't. I think for everything that it's worth, and I've been painted with a very odd brush this week, but a lot of people have said a lot of shit about and to me. Sounds good. You can have your own opinion. I am really intrigued to see how Garrett responds because I think that it was one of the worst games that he had a couple of weeks ago, and it's not close. And pressure is either going to make diamonds or crush you. But champions find success in being the most prepared. They always have. It's what makes Brady the best. It's what makes Breeze the best. Mahomes, all those dudes. You want to be one of them. The entire team has got to be fully prepared for what they need to overcome. We'll see. We'll see. All right. A couple of other things here. Let's move to the defense from an LSU side of things. Guys, in case you haven't seen South Carolina this year, Lenore Sellers has taken a pretty massive lead. Now, his offensive line is just as bad, if not worse, than yours. And when I look at him, I see a guy who's making throws in the pocket that last year he didn't have a remote chance of hitting. Guys, what if I would have told you in the preseason that there would be a game where Lenore Sellers didn't have a rush attempt, an actual rushing attempt where he's trying to run the football until the third quarter of the game and his team would have 20-plus points in a half? Oh, well, Blake, their defense, they must have really scored a lot. They must have got a Beamer ball touchdown. No. Guys, Lenore Sellers is a hell of a chess match to go up against. Because if you pressure him and you don't get there and he escapes, you're in trouble. If you don't go after him right now, the shit that this dude is doing in the pocket, guys, is utterly insane. The 45-yard throw that he had in the end zone, I think it was Nick Harbor against Virginia Tech. The 52-yard bomb that he threw, deadly accurate against Missouri. The stuff that he did in the pocket against Missouri worries the outright manure out of me. Guys, I'm going after him, guns blazing, because at the end of the day, I know what he is with his legs, and I'm not giving him a chance. Now, last week, you did not, or 2 weeks ago, you did not really go after Chambliss. You didn't get a lot of pressure on him. You better not do that again. Blake Baker has not had a lot of success really containing and minimizing some of these guys that can run, whether it be last year, whether it be against Jaden Daniels, whether it be 2 weeks ago against Chambliss. That just cannot happen again, because I can live with, under pressure, Lenore Sellers making the throw. What I don't think any of us need to live with this week defensively is that he has the time to sit back there, because, guys, I'm telling you, he's 10 times better than what he was. 10 times better. You can tell that he took the offseason very, very, very seriously. Better contain his big ass. That's all I got to say. Let him beat you from the pocket. He can. Newsflash, he can. I don't think that they have the receivers to match up with your corners. They got elite speed, though. They got elite speed. And if you let Nicholas Harbor behind you, you're going night-night. You're going night-night. It's over. And they found that connection a lot this year. And I still don't think he's a polished receiver. I think Jacobs is an okay guy. But Mansour Delane is basically locking down an entire side of the field, and teams are still going to attack Pickett, and they're going to attack Woodland. I'm just telling you, Nick Harbor, they're taking a shot on DJ Pickett, and they're taking a shot with Nick Harbor on PJ Woodland. It is coming, buddy. Listen to me. I would leverage my mortgage that both of them get tested from a fade route from Nicholas Harbor on Saturday, barring if something happens to Nicholas Harbor. I would bet my entire mortgage. I wonder if FanDuel would give me odds on that. It wouldn't be good in my favor. They're coming for you. I think you're going to be able to shut them down in their own run game, not containing Sellers. Mike Shula's not been great. So, listen, offensively, just to wrap this up before we get to a break and get to some super chats and we talk about what Brian Kelly said today, you got to be more simple. The rotations have got to come down. Your quarterback, quite simply, has got to take the stuff that's given to him. He's got to be more patient. I've completely abandoned this run game. I don't think it's going to work. Now, again, Brian Kelly said today that Carius Curran might be moved in at left guard with the injury to Paul Mabenga. Sounds good. When 57 gets his big-ass hands on you, you're going night-night too. Run behind the big fella and let's see what happens here. Let's see what happens because I think he's going to get some push. Maybe I'm abandoning it way too quickly. And that will be my thing to bear here. Run behind 57 and figure the other shit out later. Because you got to get something moving, but at the current moment, I'm done with it. You got to throw the football around. And I know Brian Kelly says we got to be balanced. We got to be balanced. I don't disagree with him. I'm not saying abandon the run game. But there also comes a time where on 1st down and 10, you can't throw the ball in the triple coverage, and when a guy underneath is open, you got to hit him. Defensively, Lenore Sellers just scares the outright shit out of me, guys. He does. And he's just so much better from the pocket. And it's insane to see the level of growth that young man made in the offseason. I didn't know he would be this polished in some regards. When he's given time, he can make any throw on the field. He's one of the best. He can definitely show you of being one of the better passers in the country. He doesn't do it often because, quite frankly, he doesn't have the time. But this offensive line for South Carolina stinks. They stink. And you better take it to their ass. That's how you're going to find your success. All right. Let me get to a quick break. When we come back, we'll get the super chats. Brian Kelly did have a press conference. We'll talk through some of the things that he said next. Stay with us. Hey, Southwest Louisiana. Are you ready to gear up for your next outdoor adventure or tackle that next big job on the farm? Then head on over to Henderson Tractors, Boats, and Power Sports. At Henderson and Lake Charles, they've got everything you need under one massive 30,000 square foot indoor showroom. Kubota tractors and mowers to power through the toughest tasks. Polaris off-road bikes and side-by-sides to conquer any trail. And tracker boats with brands like Ranger, Nitro, Sun Tracker, and Regency pontoons for a day out on the water. Whether you're a farmer or a hunter or just someone who loves the great outdoors, Henderson has what you need to get the job done and have fun while doing it. Browse their new and used inventory over at their website, hendersonimplement.com. That's hendersonimplement.com. Or give them a call today at 337-436-4366. That's 337-436-4366. Or go see them over in Lake Charles on the corner of East McNee Street and Highway 14. Remember, if you need a tractor, go to Henderson. Need a boat? Go to Henderson. Or if you need an ATV or side-by-side, you know where to go. Henderson. Just let them know that your good friend Blake Ruffino over at AYS sent you on by. Guys, I want to talk to you about our good friends over the Drake Williams Law Firm and Drake Title Company. Are you facing tough times due to an injury from a car accident, navigating the complexities of divorce, or purchasing a new home? At the Drake Williams Law Firm and Drake Title Company, they understand the challenges you're going through, and they are here to help. The lawyer team of Ernie Drake III, Ryan J. Williams, and Summer Vignair along with Morgan Daniels, have the experience and proven track record to give you that peace of mind. Give them a call today at 985-386-7600. That's 985-386-7600 to schedule a free consultation at their brand new office located in historic downtown Ponchatoula. They're also doing a special, the AYS special. If you're refinancing or closing on a home in Southeast Louisiana, request the Drake Title Company to handle your closing. If you mention Blake Ruffino and AYS, you're going to receive a $400 discount on title fees. Again, give them a call at 985-386-7600. Let them know that Blake Ruffino sent you on by. Guys, let me tell you about our good friends over at Grand Slam Heating and Air, where your comfort is their top priority. At Grand Slam Heating and Air, they promise to provide customers with high-quality HVAC service at an affordable price while ensuring the homeowner peace of mind. From their office to your home, they guarantee the best hassle-free experience around. Efficiency and comfort is their game. Let them make your home Grand Slam today. At Grand Slam Heating and Air, they're offering their annual maintenance plan starting off at $18.75 a month and also doing those $99 tune-up promotions. They provide free estimates for system and ductwork replacement, as well as offering financing to get the job done with no money up front. From Baton Rouge to Hammond to Covington, they're all around. So what you need to do today, give them a call at 225-380-9065. That's 225-380-9065. Or go over to their website, getgrandslamair.com. That's getgrandslamair.com, where your comfort is their top priority.
We're back.
All right. We got some super chats in here. Let's get some. AJ. Alexander with a $5 super chat says, CJ Daniels going off makes me mad because we have two portal receivers wasting away right now. Yeah, I tweeted this during the Miami game. Seeing CJ Daniels go off, I agree with you. Number one, shout out to CJ Daniels for the Kyren Lacy love. And it just goes to show the incompetency on some of this. Guys, and Garrett threw for 4,000 yards. That's even crazier. So I'm with you. It pisses me off too. I don't really know what to make of it. Shaquan on YouTube with a $5 super chat says, our offense just stinks right now. If we just played average, we beat Ole Miss, and I feel a lot better about our schedule. Defense has been great. I agree with that. Also says they have to have MVB ready to go. I hope this bye is great for Garrett, but let's be honest, he could take one big hit and right back in pain. So it's why I asked Brian Kelly what I asked. And I got to be real with you. Listen, like, people are killing me right now in reference to just asking the question, do you turn to him? Guys, if you can't see that he can't make a throw 35 yards down the field, then that's on you. But he can't. And then when you add on the fact that the decision-making's been bad, I mean, like, right, wrong, or indifferent. Excuses, whatever you want to make, the O-line's bad. Guys, the O-line's going to be bad. Like, you got to know by now. Is it easy to sit in the pocket and take those hits? No, no one tells you could sit in the pocket either. No one makes you sit in the pocket. Nobody. But the reason I asked Brian Kelly the question today at the press conference for credentialed media, for all the Rudy Poos out there, is mainly like, hey, man, what did you see from him? Because, and the reason I asked, is there other things that you want to see him get fixed? Is because if he saw some things, me and Brian Kelly last week, that he simply didn't like, he would have said, yeah, he's got a lot of growth. But he didn't say that. He said, man, this kid's gritty, bro. This kid's gritty. I mean, you see it. The kid can make some throws. He's gritty. He can run. I mean, there's a lot of good things that he does. Sounds good. And Garrett might come out there on Saturday and throw for 400 for all we know, because he is finally fully healthy. We don't know. But right now, that is what is the talking point right now. I hope to God that Garrett Nussmeier goes out there on Saturday and throws for 400 yards and 4 touchdowns. Everybody does. I don't know if I can see that happening. Be real with you, I would just like a 290 performance, 280 performance, and 2 touchdowns. Like I think that would, because I still think that you'll run the football into the end zone, maybe get in. I don't know. You can't have 19 points. There's not a team on your schedule that you can have 19 points against and beat them, other than maybe Western Kentucky. You're going to have to score more. And I think FanDuel agrees with that. That's why that line is at 9.5 or opened up at 9.5. Cole with a $20 super chat. Thank you so much, Cole. He says, with what we know about them today, why should we have hope for the rest of the season? Because it's only one loss. And I think everybody is assuming that Brian Kelly is lying, because our eyes tell us that Garrett can't make that throw, or he hadn't made great decisions. Because could he have regressed? I mean, it could be as simple as that. I don't think Brian Kelly plays a quarterback with a torn oblique. Sorry, I don't. Or a torn muscle in his torso. I don't see it. Now, you could say, well, Blake, what about the Greg Brooks situation? Guys, Greg Brooks had a brain tumor. And Brian Kelly's not a doctor. He's given the info that he's given. And I don't think by any stretch of the imagination that the Nussmeiers would risk any tank of the draft in that situation because of an oblique injury. That would have been a 2-week surgery, by the way. Do I think he's hurt? Yes. You can see that he's hurt. He's dealing with something. Do I think he's injured? No, I don't. And I think there's 2 different things behind that. In reference to the season, defense continues. I still don't think you played bad against Ole Miss at all. I think you played good. I don't think you played great. You only gave up 7 points in the second half. I think that is insane when you think about it. You're on the field for 90 plus plays against Lane Kiffin. You're gonna give that up. And it's on the offense to bring this up. And Nicole, I would bring this up. And Brian Kelly led the press conference off with this today, saying, guys, we haven't played a complimentary football game all year. Not like that. And you haven't. Clemson was probably the closest. But Clemson stinks. Clemson stinks. You didn't do it against Florida. You didn't do it against Ole Miss. You didn't do it against – I want to say Southeastern, but I still don't think you had a great game against Southeastern. Blake, we scored 50. I don't care. I don't think you played great at all. I really don't. You didn't play great against Louisiana Tech. Guys, you scored 20-something points. Now, Louisiana Tech's defense is pretty good, and they would admit that defense is really good, and I'm with them. It is. But, man, not that great. It's good for them. It ain't like you can't get to the 30s. I know a lot of you are bummed out, but it's one loss. And I will tell you, you got to get through October undefeated. Because if you do, then you really do have a chance for the playoff. You got a shot. Problem is, if you trip up in one of these games in October, then I think that's when you can say what you can say. Dr. John Sibley Butler says, given film with a $10 super chat. Thank you, Doc. Says, who is the better quarterback, Van Buren or Sellers? Sellers, not close. He says, I think Van Buren. What's your take? No, it's Sellers. When you look, well, let me say this. Let me back up, Dr. Butler. We have not seen Michael Van Buren really at all this year. So I don't know what he would provide you. Given off of what I saw at camp, I don't think he would light it up like Sellers. I think Sellers, from what he's done in the pocket this year, I think from just his overall run ability, because I don't know if he's not a top 5 pick in the draft. Like, I think he's that good. His offensive line stinks. But I'll tell you this. I think right now, as just a pure thrower, he's light years ahead of like where a guy that would comp to him and Jalen Hurts, he's light years ahead of Jalen Hurts throwing the football. This guy literally went against an undefeated Missouri team and whipped that secondary's ass from sitting inside the pocket. It based off of just that alone, without even going into what he did and what he can do with his legs. If you just say legs alone, you would have an argument with Sellers. I mean, Sellers, I think, broke an NCAA record for broken tackles and a half versus Texas A&M. I'm almost 1,000. I remember Joe and I had talked about that. And it was a stat like PFF showed or something like that. An NCAA record in broken tackles and a half. It doesn't go to like Bo Jackson or Herschel Walker or didn't go to any of those guys. Cam Newton, Tim Tebow. It went to freaking Lenora Sellers. No, I would go Sellers all day. Do I think Michael Van Buren can be and will be a good quarterback? Yes. Right now, if you're asking me, I don't think that there's anything enough to show that Van Buren would be that. I think Sellers has been exceptional, completely exceptional. So yeah, there's that. All right, Brian Kelly, a couple things, was asked about Karius Kern, got moved over to what I would assume left guard because Brian Kelly said that Kern got moved inside after the Mabinga injury. Okay, well, you said that. That just means to tell me you moved him at left guard. I want to see him start. I know people are tired of hearing about Weston Davis. Well, then put Chester there and see what happens. But I think you need an interior offensive lineman more than you need air to breathe. I am willing to go out there with Weston Davis to get me some interior push for the run game. And if that means moving Karius Kern from right tackle to left guard, which was where he should have always been, then God bless us all. Then it's desperately needed. But let me tell you one thing. I am going to be pissed. I mean pissed at Brad Davis if this kid Karius Kern goes out there and you're 5 games into this, now going into 6, and he's up front pushing people around in the run game. I'm going to be livid. Guys, I posted a video day 2 of camp of Karius Kern and being the biggest riser along the offense. Hello. I've been screaming from the rooftops to play him at guard. I don't give a shit if you're trying to give these interior seniors a chance to play like Cohen Eccles isn't even a senior. You're trying to give Mabanga and Eccles a chance. They, with all due respect to them, guys, we have to talk about God's honest opinions. I don't think that those 2 young men are remotely close to being Karius Kern. Not remotely close. So, you got to leave him there. I want him to start. And if he pushes people around and it took 6 games to get to this and it took a high ankle sprain, I'm going to be pissed. Guys, I'm already a little aggravated. Let me tell you why I'm a little aggravated. Because Karius Kern knew that he was getting the start against Ole Miss 15 minutes before game time after Weston Davis had a concussion from getting headbutted in the head and broke his nose. Now, Brian Kelly said that he's going to be able to go this week. Sounds fantastic. Great for Weston Davis. It shouldn't have taken that to get Karius Kern in there. Shouldn't have taken that. Because before anybody says, well, Blake, how was he during the offseason? Guys, I was there. I mean, did he have some lapses in judgment? Did he jump off sides? Yep. Did he forget a play or 2? Yep. At what point do you look and say, all right, listen, I get it. He's screwed up. You're at practice. Practice, y'all. So we're talking about practice. it's where you're supposed to screw up with a true freshman who might need to be a starter for you at left guard. You know, I think of it just makes me think of the Saban clip with Derrick Henry. Lane Kiffin or Sarkisian, whichever one it was, is yelling at Derrick Henry for missing a pass block because he went the wrong direction, and they're chewing him a new ass, and they're saying he sucks. And Derrick comes off to the sideline, and he's kind of moping. And Saban says he walks over there and puts his hand on his neck and says, "What's going on, big fella?" He's like, "Coach, I don't know any of this shit. I don't know any of it. In high school, I just got they gave me the ball and said, run. Like this, can you be a little patient with me?" Okay, same shit with Carius Kern. Because here's the truth. There is not a physically more imposing human being that plays for LSU along your offensive line that is better than Carius Kern, and he's a freshman. It doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. And if it took all that to get him in here when you were struggling in the run game, I'm going to be livid. Blake, why are you so mad when we beat South Carolina? It shouldn't have taken that, and that is incompetency. Well, Blake, he's a true freshman. Brother, my brothers and sisters in Christ, what is your point? At what point during Clemson, when your left guards are getting their shit pushed in, or against Louisiana Tech, or against Florida, or against Ole Miss, that you just look at this and say, well, and I agreed keeping him at right guard or right tackle. I did. Because don't get him out of the flow of the game. Don't throw so much at him. Now he's got to go in at left guard as a true freshman on the road in his first start. But that was the way that he looked. Solomon Thomas is back, at least per the pictures on social media. And I wonder what he can give you. I do. I wonder what he can give you. I got to be real with you guys. I haven't seen much from him. He wasn't there during camp. He broke his foot. And to be real with you, he had a bad spring. College hit him fast. So I don't know what he looks like at all. But you got to figure something out in this interior to find a run game. If it calls two freshmen, then it calls for two freshmen. If it calls you eating money on a guy that you went out in the portal and got and he ain't playing to that, it just costs you money and you got to eat it. So Brian Kelly brought that up. Thought it was a big deal. LSU gets a bonus day this week. They only practiced 2 times last week. It's going to be a big deal for Garrett. Brian Kelly said they had a bonus day and they practiced today. Nobody is more beneficial to having an extra day actually on the field to throw the football around more than Garrett Nussmeier. And we'll see. A couple of things before we get out of here. Brian Kelly says we have a game plan for Dylan Stewart. And he didn't say it in a derogatory fashion. He didn't say it in a derogatory tone. He just said, we got to have a game plan for Dylan Stewart. Dylan Stewart, if you don't chip him, if you don't do some of the things that you did, like what you did versus Clemson with TJ Parker, is going to eat you alive. He's going to eat you alive. I think that they're going to keep tight ends in this week and help block. Or they're going to chip with the running back. You need to go 11 personnel and get 3 fast receivers out there. Stop all the rotations. Stop getting Nick Anderson in there and running the football. Everybody knows. Guys, Ole Miss knew. Here's some inside baseball for you. Ole Miss knew when you were running the football. They knew. They 1,000% knew. So, in that, well, better have a plan for him. Look, we already talked about this last thing. I mean, the only real other thing he was asked about distractions was Brian Kelly. That's coach speak. Complimentary football. You haven't played complimentary football all year. You You can make the argument for Clemson, and I understand that, but you really haven't. I will say this. Koki Riley of The Advocate, I know Koki gets a lot of shit. Koki Riley of The Advocate asked a really damn good question about all these top-tier quarterbacks that came back that were supposed to have massive years, or Arch Manning, and kind of falling off, what Brian Kelly made of it. And he kind of made a joke to it. And good for Koki. Good for Koki. Great question. Koki's really asking about Garrett Nussmeier. And he said falling off. And it's a great question. Probably the best question Koki's ever asked. Guys, I'm just going to tell you, I do think from the vibe that I got today, you know, you see some people around those buildings. When you walk in there and, you know, got to see a couple of staff, chatted with them, was walking in and chatted with them. Things say bad offensively, a move will be made. I have that on the fullest of confidences. They're not going to keep ramming their head into the wall with it. They're just not going to. So it's a massive week, and we'll talk about it more tomorrow. All right, we'll see y'all soon. Y'all have a blessed night. Peace.